Hello everyone. So today is the first in a 4-part series on file system objects. We're going to start with a blank workbook and we're going to add some VBA code that will declare and initialize a file system object, and then it's going to use this file system object to build a full file path from a folder name and from a file name. The code that we're going to build is on screen now. I'm just going to use the F5 key to run that code and then open up the immediate window. Now the two inputs that we used were the folder path and the file name, and our build path method constructs a whole file path. So to start off this example, as usual I've got a blank spreadsheet. We're going to open up the Visual Basic Editor using Alt and F11, and once we're in the Visual Basic Editor we're going to give our project a sensible name. We're going to call it FSO Examples Project, and we're going to create a new module, and we're going to call that module FSO Examples. Let's close down the properties window to give us a bit more space. Now before we can do anything with a file system object, we need to make sure that the scripting library is enabled within the Visual Basic Editor. To do this, we go to the Tools menu at the top, click on References, and when the References pop-up box comes up, it will show you what references you have enabled and what references are available. In this case, we want to make sure that the Microsoft Scripting Runtime has a tick in the box next to it. If you don't have this, scroll down this list here, find the Microsoft Scripting Runtime and make sure that you put a tick in the box next to it. Click on OK once you've done that, and that will enable the Microsoft Scripting Runtime library. So here I've created a number of constants at module level. Each of these are string constants, and I've created these for a folder name, a source file name, and a copy file name. I've also just created an empty subroutine where we're going to put all of our code for this example. Now before we go any further, let's just take a quick look at the folder that we're going to be using and see what files are currently sitting in there. We can see here I've just created a folder on my desktop. I've just dropped in a number of files. There's a PDF, a couple of spreadsheets and a .txt file, and I've also created a subfolder which is at the moment empty. So all of our work over the next few lectures is going to be within this folder, within this structure. Let's go back to our code. First thing we're going to do in our subroutine is to declare a file system object and to then initialize that file system object. Now we do this using the two-step process of declaring on one line and using the set new structure on the second line of code. So we use dim FSO object as scripting.filesystemObject, and then on the next line we use set FSO object equals new scripting.filesystemObject. And we're going to build both of these paths using the file system object and using the build path method. To do this we use full file path equals FSO object dot. Now when we use the dot operator with the FSO object, it will display all of the methods that are available within the file system object class. In this case we want to use the build path method, and the build path method takes two parameters, and the first parameter is the path for the folder that you want to build the path from. In this case we're going to use folder name, and the second parameter is the file name that you want to build a path from. In this case we're going to use the source file name, and then we're just going to do the same with the copy. So here I've just added a couple of lines of code to print each of those file paths that we've constructed to the immediate window. So the final line of code for now is to set the file system object that we've created to nothing. And remember, this is a general good practice. It's not strictly necessary, as when we exit this subroutine, it would be set to nothing. But I always think it's a good idea to explicitly manage your objects and to make sure that you set them to nothing when you are finished with them. And let's just have a go at actually running that subroutine. We'll use the F5 key, and then we'll open up the immediate window. And we can see in the immediate window here, it has constructed for us two file paths, one for the source file name and one for the copy that we are going to create. Now I want you to notice something here. In our underlying code, we defined two constants. Now in these constants, we created a folder using a path, and we created a file name. What we did not do is we did not include this backslash in the folder name or in the file name. The build path method added that for us. Okay, let's clear out the immediate window and let's close it down. Now there is something that you do need to be careful with when using the build path method, and to demonstrate this, I'm going to just put a breakpoint in at this line of code here. We're going to run the code up to the breakpoint using the F5 key, and then we're just going to open up the immediate window. Now we've yet to print out any of the output to the immediate window, so we're going to use the question mark to ask the immediate window a question, and we're going to say FSO object.buildPath, and the path that we're going to put in is the full file path, and we are going to use the source name. Now the full file path has already been constructed as the folder name we've given it and the source name. And the source name is just the file name. Now, when we press enter, the output that we get has almost created a new folder within the path. So we have here the full file path that we've already constructed, and then it's added on a backslash and then appended the source name. It is not smart enough to know that this part here is a repetition of the source name. So you do have to be a little bit careful when you're using the build path method, just something to be aware of. And that's all I need to show you for now on using the build path within the file system object.